My name is Mr. Maynard, and I have the privilege of facilitating and being your mistress of ceremony for tonight's Nashville General Hospital's annual Town Hall meeting. During this meeting, you will hear updates and great information about the strides that Nashville General Hospital has made under the leadership of the CEO, Dr. Joseph Webb, and the executive leadership team and all of the staff and faculty that work there. We are excited that you are here, for those who are in person and for those who are in our online audience. Just want to do a little household rules or little guidance there for you. The restrooms are on outside there to your right if you want to exit there. Also, if you have questions, you can use the 3x5 cards or the small cards. You can place them on those cards and they'll make sure they give them to me during the panel discussion. As well as those who are watching online, you can put some information in the chat, and we do have a monitor who will make sure that we get those questions to the appropriate persons, and they'll be able to answer them for you tonight. So with that being said, let's get started. We will have an opening prayer by Reverend J. Voorhees, who is the pastor of City Road Chapel. And following him will be the Reverend Frank Stevenson, who is the finance chair of the Hospital Authority Board. He will then introduce to us the longest serving CEO of Nashville General Hospital, Dr. Joseph Webb. Reverend.
Would you pray with me? Loving God, we know that when you came on earth, one of the ministries you engaged with was healing. And that people would come and you would touch them and heal them, and they would experience wholeness and new life. And Lord, we come today to celebrate an institution that has been dedicated as well to healing and wholeness. Lord God, we ask that you continue to work through this great institution. We ask that you give us the wisdom in this city to know how to support this organization. And Lord, may your will be done in everything we do as we care for all of the citizens of Nashville. Be with us this evening. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
What an honor it is to be here tonight to really just highlight how Nashville is invested in making sure that everyone is well in our city. I stand before you as one of the longest serving board members of the Nashville General Hospital Authority, and I appreciate being appointed by two different mayors to continue to serve in this capacity. I was born at Harry Hubbard when I was 7 years old. I was playing in the yard of the University Court housing projects, and I was in front of the swing, and the swing hit me here and cut me really, really bad. I went home crying, but almost afraid to tell my mother because she would whoop me for anything. And I knew coming home with a busted eye might get me in more trouble. And she looked at it, it was bleeding, it was in really, really bad shape. And I remember putting a towel on my face, and she walked me over the bridge to the Nashville General Hospital, where they put stitches, and you can still see where those stitches were, and that was 40 years ago. And so I knew that that was a safety net opportunity for me, and that service continues in our city. I'm a product of a safety net hospital that makes sure that everyone is taken care of. And now we're at a bridge of opportunity where we can have some other opportunities for a state-of-the-art facility that represents the IT city. And I'm excited the conversations are moving forward. I'm excited that we have a board that is really engaged in what this could mean for Nashville. I'm excited about the community interest in this space. So tonight, you're going to hear about possibilities as we move forward of something very excellent. And it's befitting that it's in this place, this space, where major change has always happened. Right here at First Baptist Capitol Hill, the epic center for moving the needle of opportunities. So tonight, I have the distinguished pleasure of introducing the CEO of the Nashville General Hospital. Dr. Joseph Webb has a resume that is tremendously impressive, and any city would be blessed to have him. Nashville did a disservice to Memphis when we stole one of the greatest minds from the 901 zip code and brought him to Davidson County. In the face of adversity facing this hospital over the years, he has remained steady as one of the greatest leading operators of a hospital. He's done magnificent work. I'm glad to be on the board. I'm glad to say that we have a sacred hospital that is really concerned about the citizens. I'm glad to say that we have a very capable CEO. Without further delay, I introduce to you Dr. Joseph Webb. Thank you.
It's a small task here. All right. Pastor Stevenson, I'm going to take you everywhere I go and ask you to just introduce me, boost my ego. It is a pleasure being here this evening among you. Thank you all for coming out. And we're going to cover a lot of territory tonight, but I want to make sure for those of you who might be new to the details of Nashville General Hospital, we are the city's essential hospital. We're going to move away from safety net and public and all of the other pejorative terms. Tennessee oftentimes likes to refer to us as the cash-strapped hospital. That always brings about a chuckle when I see that. But Nashville General Hospital has been around for 133 years. I mean, that's longevity. And the mission of Nashville General Hospital, and we live by this mission, is to improve the health and wellness of Nashville by providing equitable access to coordinated, patient-centered care, training tomorrow's caregivers, and translating science into clinical practice. And that in its entirety is what we strive to achieve. We've been busy. I had the opportunity this past week, to engage with Tennessee legislatures. Tennessee Hospital Association sponsored Day on the Hill. And I had the opportunity to meet with 11 state Congress or state senators, House of Representatives or senators, one-on-one in their offices to talk about Nashville General Hospital. Every one of them expressed support. I had the opportunity a couple weeks ago to attend State of the Union address as the guest of Congressman Mark Green in 7th District, who, following that, a week later came to visit the hospital with his team, toured the hospital, and vowed to support Nashville General Hospital. A week later, we had Congressman upgrade program, well attended, and we certainly was able to share, we were able to share information about what we're doing with that group. And as always, the council is very supportive of Nashville General Hospital. So I'm going to share a few things with you about what we're doing in building a bigger and better hospital for the public. I serve on the board of America's Essential Hospitals. There's 350 public hospitals across the country that make up a professional association housed in Washington, D.C. So when I refer to Nashville General Hospital as Nashville's Essential Hospital, that's where it comes from. It is essential. We, a couple of years ago, expanded the footprint of Nashville General Hospital from its campus to the Charlotte Street, Charlotte Clinic, 1919 Charlotte, which is a multi-specialty ambulatory clinic. And now we're embarking on the second unit, ambulatory services, that's going to be in Bordeaux, which heretofore has been a healthcare desert. You can imagine that, Bordeaux, a healthcare desert. So the clinic that we're working on in Bordeaux is scheduled to open June 12th to the public. It will house an urgent care center, an imaging center. It will also house internal medicine providers, specialty services such as cardiac services, urology, gastroenterology, neurology. All of the basic specialties will be housed in the clinic, and also a full service imaging center that will house MRI, CT, ultrasound, X-ray, and these services will be used to support the weekend and after hours services that will be provided by the urgent care center. And that's at 4007 Clarksville Highway. It's right across from the Kroger and the library there in Bordeaux. What you're seeing on each side of me are renderings of a hospital that is was done to depict what the new hospital for Nashville General might look like. In 2027, the lease on the current building that we're in on the campus of the Harry will expire. And we did a feasibility study and presented that information to our board. Our finance chair is sitting right here to my left, so he's going to check me if I say anything wrong. But we did receive the support from the board based on the feasibility study, which clearly indicated that it would be more economically feasible to build new than to attempt to retrofit the hospital or to refurbish the hospital in order to bring it up to codes and to standard. Some things you just can't do if you don't have the space to do it. So, so the board did vote on our moving forward with the next steps for building a new hospital. Now, the services that we would look to include in a new hospital would be, actually these are services that we do provide now, we're just not providing them in an optimal setting. Behavioral health or psychiatry, an inpatient psych unit. We currently provide that service, but we do it in our emergency department, and then we have to transfer the patients out to an inpatient setting. This will allow us to nursing, a shorter term stay, but a longer term stay than an acute stay, which is what we're treating them in the midst of now, which is not the most efficient way. The care is good, but it's not the most efficient way to care for them. And cancer care program, we currently have a cancer care program, one of the best, but we also need to expand that service and make it more comprehensive with more advanced technology, as well as we just added a new oncologist to our staff, so the program is already growing. And the fourth area is women's services. Women's services, I'm sure you've all heard recently all of the information on maternal mortality and the greater likelihood of African American and women of color experiencing maternal mortality than other populations, as well as infant mortality, which our babies within the first year of life dying at a much higher rate due to a lack of proper prenatal care, and that is one of the major drivers. You know, I'm going to throw this in just as a bonus. I just recently heard that African Americans and Hispanics are 41% more likely to die from a heart attack when experienced in public. Now, isn't that an interesting statistic? 41% more likely to die from a heart attack. Why? A lack of understanding among the population on how to address or to perform services, life-saving services to someone who is in distress and who is threatening a heart attack. And those are some things that we can do something about. But anyway, the hospital itself would be 150 beds. We would need to add the psych beds, and we would add the skilled nursing beds. So that would give us the full comprehensive services of the new hospital. Let's see. So you're looking at the renderings, and I guess we're going to get some questions here shortly. Let me share one thing with you though before I sit down. And this is on the issue of how the hospital is funded. That seems to be a narrative that goes around in the community that comes across like this. The hospital receives its operating funds from the city. So when the hospital submits its budget and the city says we funded the hospital fully, it implies that the entire operating budget of the hospital was funded by the city. The truth is, the hospital is 60% paying customers and 40% indigent. Now, in 1890, the city made a commitment to provide hospital care for the indigent, the young, and the elderly. So, it stands to reason then that charter still exists, and so that responsibility is a taxpayer responsibility. It's not so much the city as it is, those are taxpayer dollars, and what you, the taxpayers, are doing is you're caring for the least of us. So you're providing those dollars. So when we submit our budget, the budget is based on how much we're going to cover through our reimbursement for care rather than a subsidy. But if the city, if we submit a $50 million budget to the city for the indigent population and the city gives us $45 million, well, right there, we've got a $5 million deficit. So if I've got to make up a $5 million deficit on something that you're obligated to do, then who's getting subsidized? Are you subsidizing me or am I subsidizing you? So really what happens is the hospital then actually, in most cases, subsidizes the city. Because those taxpayer dollars are obligated to care for that population based on the charter. And our finance department does an excellent job of predicting, using historical data to project what the cost is going to be from one year to the next for that population. So just wanted to make sure that we understand that about 35 to 40% of the hospital's budget is reimbursed by the city through that annual budget that we submit and what they give us. So with that, I think I'm going to close, and we're going to have a panel that's going to ask some questions. Who's next? Right.
Yes, sir. Come up.
Good evening. I'm Veronica Elders. I have the pleasure and honor of serving as the Chief Nursing Officer at Nashville General Hospital, and I'm just here to tell you about nursing at Nashville General. Nashville, born and raised, I'll say I've worked at many of the locations around here, and I have the most resilient nursing staff and nursing leadership team in this city. If you come to our hospital, one of my charges is executing our mission through clinical and patient care, and that's what we strive to do every day. For nursing, so I obtained this position in February. Now, I've been at Nashville General since 2015, but I became the CNO in February of 2020, and COVID started the next month. So we have had our challenges. However, they have remained steadfast and resilient through it all, and I believe we've been able to accomplish more in nursing than we have. I've been there now a total 8 years in the last 3 through the turmoil than we ever had before. And so recruiting remains a challenge across the nation for nurses. So for me, our investment is in the nursing workforce, and that's what we aim to do. We've done a lot of market analysis in regards to compensation and benefits, and have been able to execute quite a few of those for our nursing workforce. I do want to tell you, so I also teach clinically. I teach for 2 higher learning organizations, South College for LPN students and Lipscomb University in the BSN program. And I go to other hospitals, and their nurse to patient ratio, which is the amount of patients one nurse has to care for, right now currently in our city is 1 to 7, 1 to 8. One of the first things that we did at Nashville General with permission from Dr. Webb was to reduce our ratios to 1 to 4. And so that is to give you personalized patient care on the front line. And so we aim to continue that through now and the future state of the hospital. And we're subsidizing that workforce to kind of make nursing easier. We invested in 8 students in our CNA program. We do have a School of Health Sciences. They graduate in March, and they'll fill our tech positions to assist our nurses in the nursing care of our patients in the inpatient setting. We're also looking at sponsoring nurses across several different schools, a couple that I teach at, to build that pipeline for nurses moving forward. We are on the verge of getting our trauma level 3 designation. We do have a site visit coming from the state here in April, and we don't foresee any challenges there. And so with that, that's all I really have. Thank you.
And we do want to thank everyone who has presented thus far. I just want to give an opportunity for you to submit your questions if you've already written them out. One of our team members will be able to pick those up at this time, so we want to submit those questions. While you're doing that, if you have not, I want to also bring up 3 more of the panelists. So you did get a chance to hear from Dr. Webb, you got a chance to hear from Veronica, and so we also heard from Pastor Voorhees, but he's going to come and he's going to just do an introduction as to why he's going to be a panelist, and he's is so involved in Nashville General Hospital in the mission. Also, Reverend Haddock is going to come and introduce herself, and she's going to also share a little bit of why she is passionate about Nashville General Hospital, and we're glad for the entrance of Councilwoman Porterfield. And so she is going to be the last one who's going to come up and introduce herself as the panelist, and we'll give you your first question. So when you come up, just hang out right there at that microphone, because you're going to be the first one to get that question too. So if you have any questions, you just would elevate them, and they'll come right and pick those up. If you're in our virtual audience, if you would just put that in the chat. They're watching for the chat, they're monitoring it right now, and we'll make sure that we get your questions answered for you. I do need to do a disclaimer. If we have similar questions or questions that are the same, we're going to combine them instead of repeating questions over and over and over again. All right, well, we're not going to try to rephrase them. We're just asking, but if it's the same question about the same thing and it's already been answered, we don't want to continue to take up the space for that. So if you would just please be patient with us on that, and don't meet me afterwards. Don't meet me right now, but meet me afterwards. All right, so let me go to Pastor Voorhees, Reverend Haddock, and then Councilwoman Porterfield. Thank you.
So, 15 years ago, I was serving a church in Antioch, and I got a call from a couple of friends of mine that said, "Hey, did you hear that the mayor wants to close down Nashville General Hospital?" I said, "No, I didn't know that." They said, "We want you to come talk with us." And so I went and talked with them, and I learned that Antioch was the 3rd most of the population of Nashville General. Antioch was number 3 on the list in terms of the number of patients that went to Nashville General. And so we began meeting with hospital leaders all over the city and trying to figure out how we could convince the mayor to understand that Nashville General was an important resource for our community. And somehow he changed his mind. And so we don't know what happened with that, but that's okay. We took it. 9 years later, I got a call back that said, "Jay, the mayor wants to close down the hospital again." And so we ended up back in that battle. And so I've been engaged with this work now for a bunch of years. I currently serve as the pastor of the City Road Chapel United Methodist Church in Madison, which is the 5th, number 5 on the list of patients at Nashville General. And we are engaged in a lot of work with homeless individuals, with the indigent community in Madison. And we continue to see the need that Nashville General fulfills in terms of the health care for the folks that we work with. And so my job here, why am I here? Partially because Kathy asked, but partially because I believe that our city needs an essential hospital. We are a city that wants to take care of our residents, and we don't want to see people dying because they're not getting care. And Nashville General fulfills that role and has fulfilled it for a whole bunch of years now, and we hope will continue to fulfill it into the future. And so I'm just honored to be here and talk about my perspective on what this resource offers our city.
Good evening, everyone. I am Reverend Alicia Haddock, and I am bivocational. So what that means is that I am a local pastor here, but I also work in the field of affordable housing. I am Senior Vice President of Community and Economic Development at the Housing Fund. So that also means that I'm in a lot of intersections when you're talking about life and social issues and making sure that Nashvillians have what they need in terms of housing, but then in terms of healthcare, education, all of these things that make up our lives. And so Why am I here? Because I'm a patient in Nashville General Hospital. I always believe in walking the talk, right? So if I'm going to preach it and teach it, then I'm going to live it. And I encourage not only my parishioners to acquire their healthcare needs and their services from Metro General, but I want to make sure that the community understands that Nashville General is a community hospital, right? When Pastor Stevenson was telling his story, I thought he took mine. I was like, well, how did he steal my story? Because I was born at Meharry Hubbard Hospital, right? I had my son at Nashville General Hospital. It was very important to me when you're talking about history, legacy, making sure that people understood that if I'm going to stand with the community, that I'm going to be a full part of it, right? And I'm not going to pick and choose what parts that I'll be intersecting with my life. And so that just means that the mortality, maternal mortality rate that you were talking about, Dr. Will, infant mortality rate, those are not just issues that we can check off. These are instances that I came in contact with and came very close to when I was delivering my son in 2016 at Nashville General Hospital, and the excellent care that I stand by, that I tell people about every chance that I get. Because if you want to get quality health care, then I steer people to Nashville General Hospital. If you want to get culturally relevant health care, I tell people to go to Nashville General Hospital. If you want to talk about legacy, history, and really living into what community health care really is, I steer people to Nashville General Hospital. And so that's why I'm here, but then I also want to talk about the intersections between housing and healthcare and what really makes up a healthy community. And so thank you for having me tonight, and I am ready to get started to talk.
Hello everyone, my name is Delicia Porterfield. I am a councilwoman from District 29 in Southeast Nashville. I also serve as the chair of the Minority Caucus, and I am proud to say that I am a patient of Metro General Hospital. So I was laughing when you were speaking because I was thinking, man, I promise we didn't plan this, but there were so many things that you said that resonated that were things that I was planning to say. So when you said Pastor Stevenson kind of stole your talking points, he kind of stole mine. But it's really important to me that the community knows and that people know that when we talk about Nashville General Hospital, we're not talking about a poor people's hospital. We're not talking about an indigent care hospital. We're talking about the people's hospital. This is the hospital of Nashvillians, insured and uninsured, from a stable socioeconomic status, from a higher socioeconomic status, from a lower socioeconomic status. Nashville General Hospital provides health care for every person that walks through those doors. And it's important that we properly fund them so that they can continue to provide the level of care that is needed for every person that walks through those doors, regardless of their economic status, regardless of if they have insurance or if they're able to pay. Nashville General provides that care. I tell the story sometimes, so I'll tell it here tonight. Nashville General Hospital saved my life last year. I have always been the pillar of health. I've never had any health issues, any health concerns, and January the 4th, 2022, I unexpectedly got extremely sick, didn't know what was wrong, and there was one choice for me, and that was to go to General Hospital. I spent 2 weeks in the hospital. I spent time in the emergency room. I spent time in ICU. I spent time on the floor, and I can say that several of the faces in this room provided such quality care. And they didn't provide that quality care because I was a councilwoman, because those nurses that were there, the people that brought food to my room, they didn't know I was a councilwoman. What they knew was that I was a person, and I deserved to be treated with dignity, and that I deserved to receive the best level of care. And it was very evident that even with resources that may sometimes have been a little limited, they provided the best care, the absolute best care. it was very evident that they wanted me to be healthy, that they wanted me to have a good experience there, that they treated me with dignity. Even with my follow-up visits coming back, they remembered who I was, which was very surprising to me because I saw how many people were coming in and out those doors. So to come back 2 weeks later, 4 weeks later, 6 weeks later for those checkups and to have individuals say, I remember the night that you came in and I was so afraid for you. And I had so much concern about your health the night that you came in. I'm so thankful that you are here. We had thoughts, we were sending very positive thoughts and wanted to make sure that you were okay and just seeing the level of care that they provided. So I'm able to tell that story. I'm an insured patient. I could go anywhere in the city, but I chose to go to Nashville General because I knew that I would receive quality care at Nashville General Hospital. And these are the stories that we have to share with people in our community. I'm in Southeast Nashville, but my district has a high population of the people that go to Nashville General Hospital come from my district in Southeast Nashville. So we can't think of General Hospital as the North Nashville Hospital. It's Nashville's hospital. It is the people's hospital. And we have to treat it with that level of respect, that level of dignity, and that level of funding.
Thank you. Can you all hear me? Okay. Thank you for that. So I love the fact that you're an advocate, and I hear it in your voice and in your testimony. You have shared it before. Why is it so hard, or why do we have to fight for funding for Nashville General Hospital? You're on the council.
I am on the council. And you're right, I am unapologetically an advocate. I believe that healthcare is a basic human right, and I believe that everyone should have access to quality healthcare in addition to housing and education and good paying jobs. Healthcare is a part of the dynamic that makes an overall healthy individual. With funding for anything in the city, there are competing resources. So I jokingly call it the Hunger Games. So we need affordable housing. The people that work in the city and make this city, a lot of times they can't afford to live here and they're pushed out. We need workforce development. You have people who may not have the same level of education. You have people who were formerly incarcerated. You have people who just may not have the skill set that they need to get a good paying job, and we have to put money into workforce development. We need transit. We have people that are transit dependent, and I'm fortunate enough to get in my car every day and drive to take my child to school and drive. I drove here tonight. There are people who have to take the bus everywhere that they go. We have potholes, and we have to fund infrastructure. We have to make sure that the stormwater is taken care of. So there are so many competing needs, and sometimes there are needs that people don't think about or that may not be as important to some people. One of my colleagues is very, very passionate about animal control and making sure that there are enough volunteers at the animal control center, making sure that we keep, pets off the street. And everyone has kind of their passion projects or the areas that they are the most passionate about. But at the end of the day, we have a finite amount of funding, the same way that you in your home has a certain amount of funding, and with that amount, you have to now divvy it up and say, well, how much is going to go to my rent or mortgage? How much goes to food? How much goes to my medical bills? So, unfortunately, I would have to say unfortunately, there are competing issues, and we have to make sure that I'm an advocate for funding general at an appropriate level. I previously fought for funding for general. Just in our last budget, I was able to get an amendment to get extra funding for Metro General. So I will always continue to fight for more funding for general, but unfortunately, we do have to continue to fight because there are competing needs.
Pastor Voorhees, I have a question from the audience, and so if you would go ahead and take the microphone there. And it's similar to the question that we just asked Councilwoman Porterfield, but with all the years of you being supportive of Nashville General, do you have any sense why the city does not lift up the hospital versus making it so political? And as a pastor with your members, and you just heard about the funding.
Sure, absolutely.
I mean, speak from a pastor's perspective as well as a community leader. What does this look like? What are you dealing with your parishioners?
Right. I think one of the things I was thinking as you were speaking was one of the problems is that we tend to think about giving to an institution and not giving in terms of what it does to affect people. The fact is that the money that the city gives is to take care of people who many times don't have the ability to pay what they're wanting to do. I mean, one of the things about this hospital is it basically says we serve all comers, regardless of your ability to pay. And so the city is funding to take care of the least of these, to use a Christian term. But I think sometimes we think that we're pouring into an institution rather than into the lives of people. And so for me, what I can point to is my member Susan, who had got esophageal cancer, went to Nashville General because it was the only place she could get treatment. She was in the hospital for like a month. I mean, she was in for a long time. But they healed her. And they got her to the other side, and she's made it through, and she's now has a more fulfilled life because of her experience with the hospital. Sometimes I think in talking about budgets and competing resources, we forget there are people on the other end of this. And so I think that's part of what we have to do is we have to really help folks understand this is about helping our neighbors. This is about what we're doing as a city to help take care of one another. I think when you begin to frame it in those terms, then folks go, oh, it makes a little more sense rather than saying we're going to put it into a hospital. No, this is a healthcare system that is how we take care of one another here. So, and I also think that sometimes the way things are structured in the city and the way sort of Nashville General was structured in terms of this kind of quasi, is it a city thing, is it an independent thing? There's a little confusion around that. And so I think that sometimes makes it easier for folks to kind of say, oh, well, we don't need to, they're supposed to be self-supporting, we don't need to do that. Well, they are self-supporting. It's just that the city helps them pay for those who can't support themselves. And so I think we have to continue to hammer that in terms of why this hospital is so important. Because people's lives are changed because of the experience there.
Thank you so much. And we're hearing the passion that's in your voices and from your testimonies there. Dr. Webb, I'm going to throw this question to you. So you're next. And I know that you're dealing with some things with your eyes there. But this is from the audience. First of all, Dr. Webb, thank you for your service and your excellent presentation. I have three questions. So we had three here. One, how will Meharry Medical College be affected by the move? It's a traditional teaching hospital's needs, academically and financially. And I believe you can wrap this all up. And then, would Nashville General serve as the teaching hospital for Meharry Medical College? And will the new Nashville General be accessible to its historically targeted population?
So, how will Harry be affected by the move or the new hospital? The new hospital will be a state-of-the-art teaching hospital. So, Harry would be affected very favorably with having access to a facility that is designed around teaching and training students to become doctors. So, the hospital provides care to everyone who walks through the door. I encountered a family, it was a Sunday, and I was just leaving, actually I was coming to the hospital to do some work, and I saw this family on the elevator, and they seemed pretty distraught, and I just had to say something to them to see what was happening with it. And they explained to me that they were with their mother, and their mother had stage 4 esophageal cancer and had been turned away from the other hospitals. And I said to them, we will take care of you here. And as it turned out, that was exactly what happened, which is what we do. But when you're taking care of people who do not have the ability to pay, that has to go somewhere. Now, it's okay if the city is broke or the city doesn't have enough money to cover its obligation and those indigent patients. It's okay if you can't do it, but don't refer to the hospital as being cash-strapped because you're not reimbursing for the care that you committed to. You could own up to that and say, we just don't have the funds. Then we will have to subsidize anyway because we have to make it work. We're not going to close the hospital. So our goal at the hospital is to continue to strive to reduce the taxpayers' burden. That is our goal. And we see that in a new hospital. We will generate the halo effect, for one, where people just naturally come to the new and shiny object. But you got to retain it. And also, because of the care that we deliver, I get all of my care there. And I'm okay. And so do a lot of other people in this room. But as long as you're able to grow your volume and take advantage of the new resources that you have, and that's what we're looking at, being able to do that. Now, we're not just thinking about state-of-the-art teaching hospital just for Harry. Because the truth of the matter is that UT and Ascension are teaming up to form a medical school. Belmont and HCA are teaming up to form a medical school. Vanderbilt obviously already has a medical school, and then there's Meharry. There will be 4 medical schools in the city. There's only one essential hospital. And that population has a certain pathology in its patient population that you don't see in the private systems. Okay? So it is something that medical students need to learn about and to study and to engage in. And so the benefit of them being able to come to Nashville General to work, whether they're doing their internships or whether they're actually doing their residencies, they are in a learning environment. And so that's another benefit. So yes, we would expose ourselves to all of the medical schools in the city, not just Meharry.
Don't go anywhere. Stay right there. You just talked about the shiny halo. And so there's a question from our virtual audience that would like to know, can you speak to the mentioning of a residential tower that will be on the new property? Someone has leaked out or said there's going to be a new tower. But there's a lot going on. And then who will be the tenant since there's a new tower? They want to know that. And what are the terms to stay there at the new tower that's going to be on the property of the new shiny halo?
How much rent's going to be?
No. Just what the terms of to stay there. Maybe like the criteria of those. What type of population will be staying there?
Okay. There are a number of healthcare systems across the country that engage in housing on their campuses, or building housing infrastructure. And a lot of this is done because it is a good revenue stream. Hospitals are looking for alternative revenue streams to support their mission. We would be doing the same thing. There's a dearth of housing don't dare say it will be low-income housing or affordable housing or any other such term. It will be housing, and it's one of the areas that we've looked at as a phase of development of the campus. Now, it might not come right on the front end. I don't want to scare anybody out there that might be listening and say, oh my God, they're trying to build houses too. But it is a viable revenue stream and could be very easily done to help to reduce some of the taxpayers' burden in the event that the city becomes cash-strapped.
Thank you, Dr. Webb. Reverend Howard, if you could take the microphone. The question I want to have is for you. We heard before about the healthcare desert, and we talked about the Bordeaux area. We know the health center is coming up. It's being erected. It's supposed to open in June of 2023. What are you hearing amongst the people that you are out there, boots on the ground, you're at the grassroots level, you're engaging with people that are, experiencing this healthcare desert. So what does that do for you, hearing about a health center that will be erected or opening in June?
That has been the talk of the town, right? Nashville General is coming to Bordeaux. And I've heard nothing but positive feedback when you're talking about bringing a healthcare facility inside the community, right? As a matter of fact, people are saying it's about time, right? It's about time we receive the kind of care that, number one, we deserve, but then also to get healthcare in the places that you live, you work, you play. Now, people are saying, I don't have to move anywhere. Like, if they can afford to stay in Davidson County, they will, right? Because now they have their needs being met. And healthcare is number one. When you're thinking about housing, you need a roof over your head. You need somewhere affordable to live, where you can afford it. When you're talking about healthcare and you're getting sick or preventative care and being able to drive a mile or less than a mile is a game changer. When you're talking about knitting together a healthy, safe community, right? And so a facility like Nashville General, being inside a historically African-American community like Bordeaux, makes sense, right? We are now talking about how do you create these ecosystems, these places where people don't have to drive miles and miles to get the care or the essential services that they need, right? And so now you're talking about an essential hospital being in the community with disproportionate health disparities. So now we're talking about health equality, health equity, and making sure that people have access to quality care. And so what better institution, what better healthcare facility to do that than Nashville General Hospital, with such a legacy in North Nashville, but serving all of Nashville, to now have a facility in a community that needs it so desperately. So that's just one aspect to it. But really, when we're talking about that, we're talking about health equality and health equity. And how do we address these things? And that's by going inside the community and having a presence. And that's what Nashville General Hospital is doing.
Thank you for that. Veronica, if you would, please take the microphone. Something that you shared during your presentation, and you talked about being able to make some changes at the Nashville General Hospital. Can you just share just a little bit more about that and being able to look past, let's just say look past maybe the person itself or maybe their condition or the situation, but really see that this is healthcare is a human right.
Sure.
Really address that.
And so I'm going to echo, I believe, what she said and Dr. Webb said. Access to care is one of our biggest initiatives. And we started out with the clinic on 1919 and ensuring that there was a space outside of General for patients to come, and then as well as our Bordeaux project. And so there's such a health disparity out there with access to care. And one, I'll say, our biggest investment has been in working to increase our services for our patient population. And I won't time in them, and usually, so I'll share with you kind of what happens sometimes. So a patient's registered in, that physician or the healthcare team gets that chart, the patient demographic is on there, and the insurance is looked at immediately before they look at what care is provided. We don't do that at our organization at all. We see anyone, regardless of their ability to pay, and our investments that we have done, even the investments that we're doing in the nursing workforce, are all geared around enhancing our clinical services and our patient care at the facility. And so I'm proud to be a part of that. I'm proud of our vision in expanding just our services. I think Dr. Webb alluded to our women's health services and providing wraparound services for that population, because maternal mortality is terrible in Tennessee. And it's not getting any better. And so they need care from prenatal to past postpartum. People say, oh, 6 weeks. No, we need to expand further than that to ensure people are healthy. And so those are the investments that we're looking at, the investments in patient care, clinical care. Now, it starts with the workforce, but we're looking at it just enhancing our care in general at Nashville General. Okay?
That is that one question I'm going to ask Councilwoman Porterfield, because you just brought up something that I think that we need to hear from our councilperson. Because you talked about the workforce, and that is very important. It's an important part of healthcare, because we do know there's a shortage in a lot of the healthcare occupancies or places there. So can you just speak to that? What are we looking at from Metro, from council, and some of the discussions that they can have to help us in that workforce development or health workforce in the healthcare industry?
Thank you. I think one thing that we have considered, I know there were some conversations during our budget season, considering making sure that general is funded appropriately so that the hospital can attract and retain quality individuals in this field. And we know that right now you can make a lot of money being a traveling nurse or a traveling doctor. We want to make sure that we're able to offer competitive wages. So we want to make sure that we are funding at an appropriate level so that general can attract quality individuals to serve the people here in Nashville.
Thank you. Dr. Webb, I'm going to ask you to come back. I do have a question for you. Formerly, Meharry or Hubbard Hospital is known as a historic hospital in the Black community. Will we retain the location that when you move the same building that's there, retain that location and use it in some capacity as a historical location?
The current location of the hospital
Yes.
Right now,
Yes.
That belongs to Harry Medical College. So I'm sure they're going to want to repurpose that for some reason that would be beneficial to their existing campus. So we would not have the opportunity to utilize that because it belongs to them.
Okay. And given that Meharry Medical College for over a century has served Nashville's poor, Meharry Hubbard, I believe that's what it says, and subsequently became Nashville General Hospital. Why shouldn't Meharry Medical College be given priority, I believe, to its students' use of the new facility with Nashville General Hospital as a teaching facility? So why wouldn't they be considered to be given like first choice or be at the top of the list? And remember that Meharry Medical College students were recently excluded from learning opportunities in the other local hospitals in Nashville.
Okay. If there was anything that I said that might have implied or suggested that Meharry would not, then that wasn't the intention. Meharry we're actually the index teaching hospital for Meharry. We have
You mentioned the demographics of your population, your church population. How important is it that a new facility be centrally located within the city versus one area?
Well, that's a good question. Now I'm going to have to
That's
think
why
on that
someone
just-
asked, a good person asked that
Yeah,
question.
absolutely. I mean, I think, a lot depends on how the transportation system runs, and my assumption would be that one of the things that would happen in this is that there would be conversations with WEGO so that there would be adequate transportation via public transport out to the hospital. Part of it, honestly, with getting to Bordeaux is not that much more difficult than getting to where they are now for most of the folks that I serve. And, the way somebody talked about transportation a little bit, may have been you, the need for transportation systems, and that's a whole other conversation that we don't need to get into. But my assumption will be that there will be transportation considerations given to the new facility. Obviously, we want it to be accessible. And we want to make sure that folks are able to get there. And so we will do everything we can to make sure that that happens. And I know that the hospital will do that as well. But that's, of course, not completely in their control. That will be anywhere else. I do want to say, I've spent a lot of time in that building. And it is a historic building. There's no doubt. It has served an important place. But it's also a building that's beginning to show its wear. And so it's probably time to look at something new. In Nashville, it's hard because we do have these memories of seeing these places, and we carry them with us. But we also recognize that there comes a time when maybe change has to happen. And so I think this is one of those times where, in order to be able to provide the care that we need to provide, we need to have the most up-to-date facilities. And from what everybody has said, the ability to update the existing building to the level that it needs to be updated to is really cost prohibitive.
Thank you so much. These last two questions are for you, Dr. Webb, and we'll ask for you to take them. The first one is that cancer care is expensive. How much would it cost the city to pay other hospitals to care for the uninsured versus what they pay Nashville General Hospital?
Too much. Already, the care at Nashville General is much less, and I'm not going to quantify it, but it's much less than the cost of care at our sister hospitals in the city. And that's largely due to the fact that we don't carry the overhead that they do. So, and we make it a point to not have excessive costs for our services. So it would likely be cost prohibitive for the city to provide the level of cancer care at other hospitals that we provide at Nashville General.
This is the last question. How confident are you in getting private funding or having private funding source or private funding source will commit to the expansion or relocation?
Okay, now, that's a great question. Because that's a question that everybody wants to investigate and see if even that CEO knows what he's talking about. I just want to do this. If we think about the feasibility study that was done, stated that it would cost somewhere over $100 Because the fact of the matter is that the hospital pays its mortgage every month right now. It will continue to do that. Hospitals generate quite a bit of revenues, and they tend to pay their mortgage. And so why wouldn't a private investment company not want to build that hospital and be able to generate the margin, interest margin on that investment? You have capital investors out there that have more money than they know what to do with. They're looking for places to invest it. This is a good investment for a private investment firm. And don't think they're not knocking at the door of our owner's representative. And I'm talking to him, and he's telling me, he's letting me know that we have multiple interested parties in financing this hospital. Make no mistake about it.
Can we give a round of applause to all of our panelists and presenters that presented on today? We want to say thank you so much for sharing your vision, your thoughts, your passion with starting Nashville General Hospital, the essential hospital for Nashville, Tennessee. I want to thank Councilwoman Porterfield very much for just being an advocate and just all the things that you do, not just for the healthcare industry, but for everything that you're doing in this community. So let me say thank you to you as well. To you, Veronica, thank you so much for the work that you're doing. Keep it up. We love seeing you on Channel 5 and the other news outlets. What a wonderful spirit that you have. To you, Pastor Voorhees, we thank you for being passionate and taking care of your parishioners, and that includes those who attend your church, but also the community too. And to you, Reverend Haddock, for continuing to share your love and making sure that you have boots on the ground in this community. To all of you that are here, we thank you for showing up. For those who are on our virtual audience, we also want to say thank you to First Baptist Capitol Hill for allowing us to be in this great facility, for your warmth, for your love and your care, and for continuing to keep the legacy alive that has been shared and has started here at this location. We say thank you. I want to say thank you to all of you, Dr. Webb, for leading us 9 years. That's a long time for leading this hospital. We know that you will take us to greater heights, and so we thank you so much for your passion and leadership. Thank you all for allowing me to serve as your mistress of ceremony. Excuse me. Please forgive me. I ought to be ashamed of myself. I am a preacher and a preacher's kid. We have a closing prayer from Reverend Howard. Somebody's going to get in trouble. Absolutely.
Let us bow our heads. Almighty God, we thank you for what our eyes have seen tonight and what our ears have heard. Lord, you know what we stand in need of. You know what the city stands in need of. You know what the citizens of Nashville, Davidson County stand in need of. You know where we are right now in the state of Tennessee. And so right now we want to say, God, we are calling on you to give us the desires of our heart, but also to give us the love of our neighbor. Because we know that you value everyone, every creation, Lord. And so right now we're asking that you place a love in our hearts that will bend towards justice, but then bend towards doing the right thing when we're talking about health equity, health equality, and what an essential hospital needs to be and who they need to serve. Lord, we thank you, and we ask that you bless us with what we, the city of Nashville, need most, and that's quality health care, housing, education, workforce, the things that make our city great and that serves the people. We thank you and we bless your name. Amen.